In this ring, post to post, in between these ropes, there's no one that does it quite like me. Because I'm another animal. There's no phoning it in. There's no days off. I don't care if it's Dark, Dynamite, or pay-per-view. Sammy Guevara is the best ever every single night in this ring. And sooner or later, everybody's going to see what I've been seeing all along. I've said it since the first press conference I was ever a part of here in AEW. I said no matter who comes out here, whoever says they're the best, there's no bigger or brighter star than me. No one's going to outshine Sammy Guevara. So sooner or later, everybody's going to see what I see right now. Not only is Sammy Guevara the best, but Sammy Guevara is a champion here in AEW.
Welcome to Talk AEW, the AEW podcast from GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net. I am Ian Goodwillie, and with me, of course, is the editor of both GoombaStomp and Tilt Magazine, Ricky D. Ricky, how you doing this week?
What's up, Ian? I'm broke. It's all your fault. We're going to talk about it later. And once again, we had a pretty dramatic episode of Dynamite. Lots to talk about. Lots to talk about, as expected.
It's always so dramatic on Dynamite now. It's great. I love that they are pushing the storylines in different directions. It's awesome.
I feel like I'm watching an episode of Dynasty or Dallas. Not that I've ever watched Dynasty or Dallas, but I always hear they're like the two go-to primetime network soap opera dramas, like the big famous ones.
Oh, those were back in the day. Those were, oh my God, the things they did back in the day. Wow.
That's like the I Shot JR.
Totally. Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Right.
One of the most classic TV moments of all time. And one that everybody can't stop. It became one of those things that everybody uses as a concept and mocks and sometimes parodies, but an increasing number of people who watch TV have never seen that episode or even know what the show is.
I was more of a Twin Peaks kind of guy. But anyways, back to wrestling.
No, it's I think there's two things we want to talk about today. We're going to get into the Unrivaled toy line from AEW, and we're going to talk about production values, respectively, I think, between Dark and Dynamite. But you know what? Let's open things up today. Let's get started. Let's talk AEW toys because I have successfully drained your bank account.
Okay, so, I mean, they announced the toys a long time ago, so it's sort of my fault for not ordering the action figures right away. First of all, I didn't think it would sell out so quick, and B, I thought I would just go pick it up at Walmart, but then I completely forgot we live in Canada, and I live in Quebec, which is even worse. At least you're in the English, speaking territories. It's really hard to get collectibles in Montreal. It doesn't matter if it's AEW or, whatever toy line, G.I. Joe, He-Man, you name it. Whenever something special or exclusive gets released, we rarely get it. And so anyhow, I did not get the original 6, which is Chris Jericho, Cody Rhodes, Brandy, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. So I was talking to you over the weekend, and you pointed out that you ordered, I think, the second set?
I just ordered my boy MJF and my personal favorite, one of my favorite wrestlers of all times, Dustin Rhodes.
I ordered the Dusty and Cody from Ringside Collectibles. It's the bloody Dusty and Cody from the classic match from the pay-per-view, which is amazing. But I could not find anywhere where I could order MJF or Phoenix or Pentagon or anybody from Wave 2 anywhere, at least here in Canada. I think I found a place where I can order in Australia, but it's going to cost me 60 USD plus shipping and handling, so I would be paying 100 plus for each action figure, which I'm not going to do. So my first question for you is, where did you order MJF, and can I still order these figures?
I actually ordered mine through Ringside Collectibles, but they ran through their pre-orders a while ago. Everything, I think I got an email from them actually a while back because they started getting them in and they started shipping them out. But there was a problem with the manufacturer, so they only got a certain number of the allotment they had already ordered in. So I'm sort of, mine are still coming. It's just they have to make more first. So I honestly, I know what you're saying about being in Canada, being in Saskatoon, but I know what you mean about, waiting until the very end. It's rare that this kind of stuff shows up here, but they still have pegs out on the shelves that say AEW Unrivaled on them, waiting for toys to show up on them. So I'm hoping eventually that they still do. But I think at this point, I think as far as I know, they're pretty much sold out. Like they're pre-sold out online at this point, which is unfortunately happens a lot. I don't know if AEW themselves knew how popular this line was going to be, so I couldn't tell you what the initial runs were on either line. But I think they were probably caught off guard by how in demand they were right off the bat. I'm curious to see if that means what that means for future runs, if it means they're going to increase the numbers yet. Like, I mean, it's important to remember they're still new at this. Like WWE's been in the toy game for decades. They know the drill. They know what they're doing. AEW is still feeling this process out. Like it's going to be a bit of time before they get it down pat. But I mean, they're making some great toys from what I can see. Not that I've actually physically seen one yet.
Right, so that's the thing. So what I ended up doing was I ended up ordering a Chris Jericho and Cody from the first wave, which I found on eBay, which was reasonably priced considering that, it's selling for like hundreds of dollars elsewhere, but I ordered it from someone in Canada. So I'm hoping I don't get screwed. I'm actually going to get the action figures. And I did get an email from Ringside Collectibles, and they are shipping me the Cody and Dusty, the Bloody duo, which I don't know when it's going to arrive, but apparently it's shipped. Now, I have a few questions and concerns. So first of all, question number one. The Ringside Collectibles has a Chris Jericho special bubbly action figure.
Yeah, that one's neat. The one that comes in the champagne bottle.
Is this actually part of the collection?
Yeah, very much so. It's a special edition one. It's part of it. It's a Chris Jericho figure from the AEW Unrivaled line. It's just specially packaged with a packaging representative of a little bit of the bubbly. But yeah, no, it's legitimately part of the line. Absolutely.
Because I was a little worried because I want to order it, but I only want to order it if it's an official AEW action figure, not sort of.
No,
okay.
It very much is. Ringside is my favorite spot to Ringside Collectibles. My favorite spot to go for stuff like. I mean, the reality is, I came to the conclusion a long time ago for the exact reasons we were just talking about. It's hit or miss here with what wrestling figures do and don't show up on the racks here. I would love to go into Walmart or Toys R Us or wherever in town here, go and just grab them for off the retail price, grab them and be good to go. But I can't be guaranteed. Number one, if they're going to get each wave in of whether it's AEW or WWE Elite or something like that, I can't be guaranteed if they're going to get every line in. Sometimes it just seems like it's odd-numbered ones, which is even stranger. And the other thing is, I can't guarantee how many because it's me and I don't know how many other guys in town buying these things. And when you get there's usually Seth Rollins and or Roman Reigns and or AJ Styles in every single wave of WWE figures, right? So if you want that Keith Lee, there's going to be maybe one or two Keith Lees on the shelf, so you're going to have to be there quick. So I came to the conclusion a while ago that, you know what, I'd rather pay a bit extra in shipping from Ringside to have them send it up to me and be guaranteed to get the ones I want. Because there's certain wrestlers I'm super into. Like I missed out on Grand Metalik that way. Like Grand Metalik, the wave dropped, it showed up in Saskatoon like the day before the pandemic lockdown went into effect. And so somebody bought up the last one here, and I missed it online, so I never managed to get my hands on him. And I love Grand Metalik, so I just things like that. So I started realizing if I really care about the figure, at Ringside, and this is the other thing. I've ordered several times from them now. They have number one, never let me down. Everything's always arrived nice, and it always looks good too. Like the product always looks nice as well. The other cool thing about them is they get tons of stuff that's only available through them. That little bit of the bubbly one might be only available through them. I'm not 100% sure. I know they do this a lot with WWE. I picked up. I've actually got a Walter on the way from them right now. That's from the WWE Elite line, only available through them.
It is a Ringside exclusive. The Chris Jericho is exclusive to the website. But so here's the thing. What I see happening here is very similar to what happened with Nintendo Amiibo. So when we started our Nintendo podcast, they started releasing Amiibo figures, basically figures for Nintendo characters. And they did not produce enough figures, so everything sold out, and everybody was selling the figures online for like hundreds of dollars. Now, the same thing is happening here. Like, I understand AEW is pretty new. They've only been around for just over a year. I understand this is the first toy line. But what I see happening is I see a bunch of the figures from Wave 2, which technically isn't released yet. Like, there's no street date yet for Wave 2, Series 2. but yet it's all over eBay and it's selling for hundreds of dollars. So like right here, if you want the complete set, you could order it from this dude for $700. All 6 action figures from Series 2. So how is it that all of these people have Series 2 and they're selling it on eBay when I was told it's not yet released?
Ringside Collectibles actually, I don't know if it's just Ringside, but Ringside and other companies, online retailers, some of them, the ones that particularly the ones who specialize in those kind of in wrestling toys, tend to get them before a lot of other people do. Like they get them before brick and mortars, they get them before some other sites. And the other thing is, they may not be released in Canada yet, but the line might actually be on the shelves with some stores in the States already. It tends to happen that way with toys. Some, depending on who they order through, some stores get them before. Like I know, like if you let's just say Star Wars figures. Let's go with Star Wars figures. I picked up, actually today I was at Toys R Us. I'm a huge fan of the animated series The Clone Wars. One of my favorite characters from that show is Cad Bane, a bounty hunter, and from their Black Series line, which is another similar in scale to the AEW Elite line. And I saw him there and I grabbed him immediately. As far as I know, at most online and retailers, they're pre-selling him to be released sometime in 2021 kind of thing. So different retailers, online and brick and mortar, get different products at different times depending on their deals with the manufacturers, right? And who they even order through. Like I know some people get certain Funko figures quicker because they order straight through Funko rather than a go-between kind of thing. So it's one of those things. Like it depends on who you're ordering from and when. Like it might not have an official street date of certain times. That might just be for Walmart, who, as far as I know, is the exclusive brick and mortar shop for AEW figures. So
I know, but I think that sucks. I think there should be a street date. Like I understand if a website like Ringside Collectibles has a special arrangement with AEW that they can open up pre-orders early. But I still think there should be an official street date so the AEW fans know when to line up at Toys R Us or Walmart or whatever store it is that they need to go to, and or go to a website to order blah 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 action figure. Because what I see happening is I see a bunch of scalpers buying the action figures and trying to sell them at like 10 times the price. No different than, say, the PS5. No different than Nintendo Amiibo. Nintendo actually fixed this problem because, I mean, it took them forever. It took them like a year or so. But whenever you want to buy an Amiibo now on Best Buy or Walmart or Amazon or whatever, you can only buy one per household, one per whatever account you're using to shop online. So that is how they controlled the whole problem with scalpers buying every single figure of, say, Link from Zelda and selling it online for like hundreds of dollars. So now you can only really buy one. So if you want, I guess you could technically create a bunch of accounts and have like a bunch of different credit cards or PayPal accounts and buy a bunch of the figures, but it's a pain in the ass and many scalpers just won't do it. And they know at the end of the day they're not going to make much money because people are just going to be able to buy the action figures online. So I'm kind of really like let down. And I did see on a website, I do not remember the website, it's an Australian website, and they say that they are selling Series 1B. So basically they're reproducing the 6 figures from Series 1, which is, again, Jericho, Cody, Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Brandy Rhodes, and they're going to release the second wave of Series 1. Now, I guess that's cool, and apparently they're making like minor changes to the way the characters look. Like maybe they have a different color, like pair of shorts or a different shirt or whatever it is. But we do know that those figures are never worth as much as the original. It's like if you buy a comic book and they release the second, third, fourth print of whatever issue, like it's only that first original print that's really worth a lot of money. When you get to like issue like print B, C, D, E, like it decreases in value and it's pretty much just worth the actual cover price. Now, I'm not in this to actually try to make a profit. I'm not trying to like sell my action figures. I just want to collect them because I'm a huge fan of AEW. But I just hope that I can at least get those the 4 that I'm missing from Wave 1 without having to go on eBay and spending like a shit ton of money. The weird thing though, Ian, is that it's Wave 2 that's super expensive, like Series 2. It's Series 2 that's selling really, really high on eBay. Series 1, I mean, they're still pretty expensive. Like $50 for an action figure is pretty expensive, plus shipping and handling. But Series 2, we're talking about they are selling in the hundreds.
I'm not surprised by that. I think it's got to do with who the characters are at this point. Like, it's not common to find. Like, I mean, is this? This might be, as far as I know, and should be MJF's first figure, right? As far as I know, it's Santana. Not Santana. I'm about to say Santana Ortiz. I think I'm about to say that because I want them to have figures. But as far as I know, it's the first figures for Penta and Ray. I mean, excluding Boss Fight Studios, who are doing a couple of excellent ones on their own in their Legends of Lucha Libre line that I prepaid for a year ago and still waiting for. But they're getting them done. They're posting nice updates. They're beautiful figures. But I think it's got a lot to do with who's in it. I mean, despite the kind of weird looking Adam Page figure that's in that line, the rest of the line is pretty great looking, actually. Like, I particularly like that Dustin figure. I'm glad you ordered that 2-pack with him and Cody, because I mean, it's a good 2-pack. I like the look of it.
Well, so far the one I want the most is MJF, because it is the very first action figure for MJF. I really, really want Ray Phoenix and Pentagon for sure. They are super hard to get. Like, if I want, I can go on eBay right now and order an MJF. There's enough of them to go around that I can get one at a reasonable price. I'm still paying like at least 3 times the original cost if I were to have ordered it on Ringside Collectibles. But I mean, I agree. Hangman Adam Page is by far the worst looking. It's the one I really do not want to get unless I get some special deal. I would not pay more than the actual retail value for Hangman Adam Page, because it looks just god-awful.
The likeness is not there.
Not at all. I mean, I think, like, honestly, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon are probably the 2 coolest looking. The thing about Chris Jericho is there are over, like, 150 Jericho action figures, like, different action figures made for Jericho over the past 30 years. So to me, it's just another Jericho. I still want it because, you know, it's Chris Jericho of AEW, Chris Jericho of the Inner Circle. But I'm not as excited for a Cody or Jericho or even John Moxley, because we've had action figures of those guys in the past. I'm really, really interested in getting the action figures for guys like Sammy Guevara, Orange Cassidy, Ray Phoenix, Pentagon. And you told me that Wave 3 was announced. Now, I know that Sammy...
Qualification on that. I don't know. I know what figures have been announced. I don't know what waves they're in. Like, they haven't said for sure these figures are in Wave 3. They just said they're working on these figures. So, for all I know, Sammy's in Wave 7. I have no idea, to be honest.
Well, but I mean, when AEW and Sammy tweeted pictures of the action figure, I mean, it looks ready and done and ready to go, like ready to be shipped and produced. Like, I'm pretty sure that's going to come in Wave 3 or Series 3. I keep saying Wave 3. It's Series 3. I also did notice Orange Cassidy.
Yep. And Pac. And there's someone else. And Darby.
And Darby Allin. Those are the 4 I want the most. Them and MJF.
I'm hoping that they announce some more of their female talent, like maybe a Britt Baker or something like that. Because to date, I love Brandy. I love the Brandy figure, little brand. I just hope they do some more of their female talent, because one female wrestler in the line is nowhere near enough. Like, I'd love to see a Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, given how long she's been their champ at this point. Makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm curious to see who ends up in this line and doesn't. Like, I really hope they focus on, because I mean, you look at that first line. It's got John Moxley, it's got Cody Rhodes, and it's got Chris Jericho. 3 guys who've had multiple figures from WWE made over the years. I don't begrudge them making more figures, but I agree with what you're saying. Like, it's less special because of that. I want to see them make figures of guys, like men and women, who do not have figures. I want to see AEW talent. That's why Sammy Guevara, I think it's an amazing idea to do him. This is a marquee player for them. I think it's great to put him out there on a figure. Love just all 4 from that. If those are all 4 of them are in Wave 3, I hope they are. That's going to be a killer wave right there. That one's going to fly off the foot. Like, the thing I do is anybody who's into this, anybody who, like, I highly recommend Ringside Collectibles, but I also recommend following them on Facebook, because they post the second something's up for pre-order, they post it on Facebook. They tell you this is up for pre-order, and if you want to get on it, here you go, do your thing. And they've got a ton of figures from New Japan that are amazing right now too, like different New Japan wrestlers. If you're down with New Japan, they got great stuff for that too. Like, they are, I find, a good central place to get a good stuff. This is starting to sound like a plug for Ringside. It kind of is in a way. I don't know. They've given me great toys. They've sent them to me, and I love them for it.
So I'm actually on eBay right now, and I found a listing here for the Young Bucks, and it is selling for roughly 24 Canadian dollars. Now, of course, people are placing bids, but starting at $24 for 2 figures is really good. But there are still 2 days left to bid. So, for all I know, in 2 days, this can go from $24 to $200. I also just found a John Moxley for $700. I also found a Cody for $1,500, but it's a special Cody. It's 1 out of 500 produced, so it looks exactly.
Is it the Star Trek uniform one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Yeah.
There's a version of Chris Jericho, if you can find it. There's the one where he's got his fedora on, but there's also one where he's in the Inner Circle T-shirt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple of variants of Chris Jericho out there too.
And there's a variant of MJF as well.
Yep, different colored scarf, I believe.
Yeah. So you see, but that's the thing. Like, I would not go so crazy as to spend extra money if the only difference is the color of a scarf. But if it's something as cool as Cody dressed like a red shirt from Star Trek, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. If Chris Jericho has a fedora and an actual T-shirt from the Inner Circle, that's pretty cool. Like the Chris Jericho Bubbly figure, I'm probably going to order as soon as we're finished recording the podcast, because I think that one looks really cool. The thing is, like I said, I already ordered a Chris Jericho action figure, so I kind of feel dumb ordering one more. But anyways, here's the thing. When I was younger, I used to actually have the old school WWF wrestling figures that my older brother gave me all his toys, and then when later on in life I gave all of the toys that he gave me to my godchild, who's like my cousin, which I really regret because I really wish I still had them. So I had those original 80s, I guess late 80s action figures.
Wow.
And then I still have a few WCW figures. Like I have like the 2 original Stings. I have Big Papa Pumps. I have a few from WCW. But I mean, I stopped collecting wrestling action figures like a long time ago. So I still collect a lot of things. Like I collect Nintendo Amiibo and I collect Funko Pop figures and et cetera, et cetera. But the thing about AEW is what I love about AEW in general, it's a brand new wrestling promotion. Like it's like barely like it's like just over a year old. So
right.
You know, we're gonna get like the first video game. We're getting like the first run of action figures. We're getting like the first like pay-per-view DVD. So I feel like I can collect from the very beginning and, you know, keep up. Like maybe every so often I'll miss out on an action figure because it sells out, or I don't want Adam Page because it looks terrible, but I have a good chance of pretty much getting every single DVD and action figure and toy and video game that I can possibly want that's related to AEW.
And also they'll eventually you'll get to a point where you don't need a 7th Chris Jericho in the same line, right? Because that's what inevitably happens with these. They'll start I have a lot of there's a Simpsons line from the late 90s and early 2000s that I have a lot of, and it got to a point where there were 6 figures per wave and 2 play sets, and it got to a point where 3/4 of each wave was all Homers and Barts in slightly different outfits, and that's what's inevitably going to happen with this. Every toy line goes through that. The variants of Batman you can get at this point have been pure insanity over the years. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's something to be said about being able to be in on the ground floor of a company, because at this point, starting a wrestling company or any other property like this, like let's say you were starting Star Wars today, you wouldn't even conceive of doing it without a toy line, without video games, without comics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this stuff is eventually, if not, as we know, is already coming into focus for AEW after only a year, because it has to. If they're going to be viable competition for WWE, they have to do this. Like it's part of the game. And they have to do it, and they have to do it well. And I think a big part of it, like I think they're making out, again, excluding Mr. Page, they're producing generally good toys. But I think their problem is they're lacking in the distribution. Like right now, again, like I said, as far as I know, the only brick and mortar carrying them is Walmart. Well, they're going to have to change that. Like I can't find them on Walmart shelves, so that's not working. So they need to do something about that.
So I don't live in the States. I'm not entirely sure what the situation is like in the States, but here in Montreal, like we don't have Target. Like Target lasted like about a year in Montreal and it closed down because nobody wanted to shop at Target. We don't have a lot of the stores that they have in the United States. We do have Walmart, but it's funny because like I know this guy who's like a huge collector in Montreal. Like it's all he does. He makes money off of like collecting action figures and comic books and stuff, and then resells them later in life. And he told me that he saw the action figures at Walmart, but like the Walmart like super super far out, not the Walmart for whatever reason, and like because he actually goes to every single Walmart to pick up these figures, so he went to every single Walmart and he couldn't find the AEW figures anywhere but one Walmart, which was super far out. He's like, I don't understand why. He's like, why would this Walmart get it, but then the other Walmarts didn't get it? And they only had like a few, so he picked up like whatever they had and he sold it. I wish I knew this because he's actually related to me. Okay. And I was like, man, if I knew this, I would have like just asked him to pick me up like some action figures. So that sucks. But like, look, I can't go to Walmart, especially during a pandemic, like every single day, and hope that I'm gonna find like an action figure sitting on the shelf. The last question I have is regarding the ring. So there is like a mini ring, and then there's an actual what they call scale ring playset. So
and one of them comes with Kenny Omega, I think.
Yeah, that's the scale. It costs like $100. It's like $89.99 plus tax, and then shipping and handling. It's gonna be like over $100 if I want to get it. I don't know if I want to get the ring. Like, I'm not sure if the ring interests me because, like, with the action figures, like I can see myself putting it on any one of my shelves, and it won't be a problem. But if I get the ring, like, where am I gonna put the ring? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I need the ring.
I never buy the rings. I rarely buy sets like that. Just for the exact reason. Like for me, like I have a variety of action figures I collect. I keep 90% of them in the package. It's not like I'm keeping them safe for blah 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 money. I don't care about that. The whole thing is an art piece to me. I buy based on the look of the figure, the look of the packaging, and everything else, and I display accordingly. So buying a ring in a giant box that I'm not going to take out and play with, like I'm not taking out the action figures and playing with them, so the ring serves no purpose, and I'm not going to take out displaying it, so there's no purpose in that either.
That was going to be my last question. Do you take them out of the package? And that's what I haven't decided yet, because I tend to take all of my action figures and collectibles out of the package. Now, the thing with the amiibo, for example, just to bring back amiibo as an example, when you open the amiibo, like, forget it. There's no way to put the package back so it looks brand new. Like, it's over. Like, you open it, too bad, you've opened it, right? But I'm like, I don't care, because first of all, the amiibo actually function within the game, so you can scan the amiibo and get special, like, collectibles and stuff within the game.
Right.
But also, like, I just want it on my shelf, and I don't, like, want it. Like, I could hang the box on my wall, but I want it on my shelf. Now, with the Pop figures, I've talked about this before. I don't know if it was on this podcast or the Nintendo podcast, but what I love about the Pop Funko, because at first I was like, why do people collect this? It's so stupid. And then my niece ended up getting me, like, the Batman Pop Funko for Christmas, and my friend ended up getting me one also for Christmas. I ended up getting, like, 2 surprise Pop Funkos because they, for whatever reason, thought I collected it, which I didn't at that point in time. And then I looked at them and I'm like, you know, this is pretty cool because
it begins
because they look like they belong in the same universe. So I could put my Axl Rose next to Kratos from God of War, next to Cuphead, next to Hellraiser, next to Alex Trebek, next to, you know, whatever, like Slash and Prince and Elton John and Alfred Hitchcock. And I got all these dudes, but they all look like they belong in the same collection, in the same universe. And that's what I love about the Pop Funkos. But also, the cool thing about the Funko Pop figures is when you open it, you can easily repackage them. You can put them back in the packaging, and it looks brand new because they sell them. So you just open it and take it out of the package. There's no ripping or tearing or anything. Like, so I personally love the fact that you can put the Funkos back in the package and sell them like as if they are brand new. You can't do that with action figures. I think what I might do is not for everyone, only for a few select few, like maybe 5, like Sammy for sure, because he's my favorite. It's going to be the first action figure for Sammy Guevara. But I think I'm going to buy 2 if I'm lucky, if I can get my hands on 2. I'm going to buy one where I do not open it. I leave him, the figure, in the package, and I have one that I actually open.
Well, and then you can save it for the day that you meet Sammy and get him to sign it.
Yeah, but then he's going to sign it and ruin it. Why would I want him to do that?
Fair. Get a third one that he can sign.
No, yeah, I don't know. Man, I'm like really picky like this. But the thing is, it's like that's the thing. So like with the ring, like I'm looking at the ring, and I'm like, I could get the ring if I'm going to open the packages and take the wrestlers out.
It makes more sense.
Yeah, I could put the wrestlers in the ring, and I could put it on my shelf, and it looks like a really cool collectible. But I haven't yet decided, and the reason why I haven't yet decided is because I'm still waiting to get one mailed to me. Like, I mean, apparently Cody and Dusty are being shipped to my house but I don't know when I'm going to get it. So until I actually have figures in my hand, I can't yet decide.
The timing on getting shipped to from the States from Ringside varies greatly. It's usually a month to 6 weeks, I find. Like, I don't like I'm still like my Walter's been in transit for a bit now, so and my Keith Lee left a little while ago too. It will come, they will both come eventually, but yeah, it takes a bit of time. Just one last question from my corner. Speaking of AEW and Funko, did you happen to a couple of years ago get your hands on the Funko figures for Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody?
The Young Bucks.
Yeah. They put the all New Japan ones. They were like all the New Japan logo on them because that's who they were through. AEW wasn't quite a thing yet, and yeah, they all came out at the same time. And then there was a 2-pack of the Young Bucks, and then Kenny and Cody, and then there was a variant 2-pack that was sold only through Hot Topic of the Young Bucks.
I don't know if I have like the originals, because you can go on Amazon right now and you can actually buy the Young Bucks, like the Pop Funko figures.
Probably, yeah.
Like they're available, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. They didn't sell out super fast,
but the thing is, like the original Michael Jackson. So they released 5 Michael Jackson Pop Funko figures for Beat It, Thriller, Billie Jean. I forget what the rest were, and Smooth Criminal. I can't remember the 5th one. And those were selling for like over 1,000 each on eBay. And I found the website the other day it just popped up on my like Facebook, like they were advertising, and they were selling the Michael Jackson Pop Funkos for like $10 to $15 each. So I'm assuming they've just made more of them. So it could be like a second wave of the product.
It could be. Also, there are several knockoff sites out there too that sell knockoff versions of them.
Oh yeah, probably.
That they make themselves. Like I found that too. I have an Indiana Jones one that I bought because it's a replica one. I know it's a replica one. I paid like $15 for it. I have no delusions about what it is. But it's definitive. Like I could tell by looking at the box that it's completely knockoff one. Like it's not legit Funko, but I don't care. I just like it because it's Indiana Jones, and I love Indiana Jones.
How do you know? How do you know by looking at the box? Because the one I looked at, like it says Pop Funko, like it has the actual brand and the original logo. So
it depends on like when the box is from and what sort of markings it has. Like they all have, depending on the era, they have different markings and such that should match up. And that's kind of like, it's little details like that on like often on the bottom in the fine print kind of thing to kind of tip you off to whether this is legit or not. And also just the fact that somebody's selling a $500 Funko for $10 is usually a dead giveaway. Like it's just, okay, that's not a thing. Like it's not, like they didn't make more of them. When Funko retires something, they retire it. Like they might make a different version of it down the road, like an updated Michael Jackson from Thriller, but they will never reissue that one from 5 years ago again. That's done.
That's what I'm thinking. Like I don't know. It could be a complete like knockoff, but I was just hoping they release like a second wave of the original 5 MJs, and they maybe just change the color of his hat or his boots or something.
It's entirely possible. But yeah, unlikely.
Yeah, not to talk about toys all night long, but that's my worry about the website where I noticed that they were selling like Wave 2 of Series 1. I'm like, well, is this a knockoff? Is this the actual like figures from AEW? Because if I'm going to be spending my money, I want my money to go to AEW because I want to invest and spend my money on the wrestling promotion and promote it and do this podcast and do whatever I can to help it grow. I know I'm just one person, so like it doesn't make a difference, but it makes a difference at the end of the day when everyone contributes to AEW. Like when I watch the wrestling pay-per-views, I'm paying my $50, $60 to watch the wrestling pay-per-views. I'm not illegally streaming it or downloading it the next day from some torrent. I'm actually spending my money on AEW because I want AEW to succeed.
Absolutely, and it's the same thing. The same. You're absolutely correct. The same rules applies to toys. And even if only one person buys these few knockoffs, like buying a knockoff of a Indiana Jones from Disney, I'm sure it's a knockoff. I'm pretty sure it's a knockoff anyway. I could be easily wrong, but at the same time, I'm not too worried about Disney. On the other hand, yeah, no, you're right about AEW, and you want to be careful with that. And it's one of those things where you want to be careful what you're doing and when and who you're supporting. For what it's worth, I haven't heard anything about a re-release of the first wave of the first of those original figures. That's not a piece of news that's ever crossed. Like I pay pretty close attention to what's going on in Toyland, and I have not heard anything about that. That doesn't mean they didn't announce it and it didn't escape my notice. I'm not all seen or anything. But I feel like if there was a second wave of the first round of the AEW figures coming, Ringside Collectibles or AEW or somebody would have made an announcement about that, and I don't recall hearing anything about that. So I think you're right to question that.
Hopefully by the end of the year I'll have at least 3, if not 4 action figures in my hand. Hopefully. Oh, okay. Last question, because you really got to move on. What's the most you would pay for any one of the figures from the first wave or the second wave?
Let's see. First wave retail price. I wouldn't go above and beyond for any of them. It's not something I love. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike any of the wrestlers, but there's none of them in particular that I'm like, oh, I have to have that. Wave 2, I'd probably pay 50-60% more for MJF or Dustin, just because I'm such big fans of those. The interesting thing is, though, if I hadn't pre-purchased the Boss Fight Studios versions of Penta and Rey, I probably would be, I would have pre-purchased their ones from AEW as well. But, I mean, for those guys, I'd go a bit higher, too. Like I said, 50-60%. Would I go double? It would take one hell of an action figure. Something really, I think the only time I've ever paid that much, the only time I've ever played like double or triple the amount was I bought an exclusive Asuka Funko 2 years ago at a comic book convention, because it was, as far as I know, all of her figure. I don't know if they ever did like just a normal retail one, but any of the ones with like face paint or face masks or anything were exclusives. And I'm like, I saw one, I had to have it. And I'm like, it's Asuka. She's top 5 for me in wrestling, period. I'm like, you come with me. Other than that, yeah, anybody in those first couple of waves, I think wave 3, or the upcoming waves, like the ones they've announced, I'd be more likely to pay a bit more for like an Orange Cassidy or a Darby Allin or a Sammy Guevara, to be honest. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, look, the Cody and Dustin package, I know it's 2 figures in one package, but it's $50 USD, which is about, what, 60 Canadian plus shipping and handling. So I've already spent about $75 on those 2 figures. And then if I were to get the Chris Jericho special bubbly action figure,
bit of the bubbly,
it's 35 USD. That's about 40 Canadian plus shipping and handling. So I'm going to pay about $45 to $50 for an action figure. So they're already expensive as is. Mm-hmm. So I would not really pay more for those guys.
No, I can absolutely see that, because this is, for all 3 of them, I'm anybody who can correct me out there, to the best of my knowledge, this is a first-time action figure for all 3 of those guys. I mean, obviously, Pac's another guy who has WWE action figures out in the universe, but for those 3 guys, when you're talking about the first wrestling action figure for somebody like them or like an MJF, that's a big deal. That's something that those guys are going to look at, that Sammy's going to go. He's going to get that first action figure, and he's going to be like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, that's going to be the mindset. For someone like Chris Jericho, the fact that, like, I would honestly like to go to Chris. I would like to know, does Chris Jericho have one of every action figure that's ever been made of him?
No, I think he does. I mean, I could be wrong, and I should ask him on Twitter, because he seems to actually reply to his fans, which is really cool. But I do recall him saying on the is it Chris Van Fleet? I think it was on his podcast, his YouTube channel. He said he had over 185 Chris Jericho action figures, and the way he said it, it was like he had over 185. I
respect that. I don't think, like, some people might think that's vain. I don't. I think that's really cool.
Like, usually the company will send you an action figure, right? Like,
awesome.
I'm pretty sure the actual wrestler would get an action figure.
I hope so. And I think that's awesome. I think that it's great. Like, I hope that these guys get, like, I mean, obviously there's certain guys that are picking up a lot of wrestling action figures, but I mean, I think it's cool that Chris Jericho has this career that has enabled him to have so many versions of these action figures, so that he's popular enough that they keep making them. I think that's very cool, and I'm glad he celebrates that on some level. All right, I think it's time for our break for Talk AEW. We'll be back in a minute with our main event to talk about production values on Dark and Dynamite. We'll see you in a minute.
Oh, look at this! Look at this! Making a statement here! Can you believe this?
That's right, JR. Now kids big and small can relive their favorite AEW moments at home with the brand new Unrivaled collection by Jazzware.
The Judas Effect. The Crossroads.
Super Kick Party!
Big Trigger!
AEW Unrivaled this August.
And we're back with Talk AEW, the AEW podcast from Goombastomp.com and TiltMagazine.net. We're here with Ricky D, the editor-in-chief of both websites. Ricky, how you doing?
I am fantastic. It was another dramatic episode of AEW Dynamite, but I don't really want to talk about the matches. We can talk a bit about the matches and promos and the segments and the drama, but I really want to just talk about the production values. Like, if you were a director or a producer, what would you change?
I think there's two things right off the top of my head I would get rid of. Number one, they keep showing these weird camera angles. I don't know if they're GoPros they have attached to the ring posts, but they keep showing the shots on them, and they're always blurry because whatever's covering them is, I don't know, dirty from getting beaten up or something. I would get rid of those cameras. I get nothing from those shots. Like, they're just really weird close-up shots of people's faces or butts or something, and I don't need that. And the other one is every once in a while, sometimes they do it during the match, sometimes they do it during entrances, but they take that weird, I think they just have like a camera suspended above the ring and that weird top-down angle where I'm looking at the top of Justin Roberts' head. And I like Justin Roberts, but I don't need to see him from that angle. It does nothing for me. I would immediately cut those out. I think they had nothing whatsoever.
I do think the bird's eye view looks good for some matches, but with reason. Like, it was fantastic for the cage match between Wardlow and Cody Rhodes because it really gave us an idea of how tall that cage was. I mean, Cody said he's never going to, wrestle in a cage that tall ever again, and next time the cage won't be that tall is a mistake on the part of AEW. But that camera shot really gave us an idea of how far he dropped when he did the moonsault from the top of the cage. It was insane. So I think that camera shot works for some matches. It would work, for example, for a ladder match.
Absolutely. No, I can't agree with you more on that. That's great.
Okay, so let's look at this episode of Dynamite to use as an example. So we kick off the show with Hangman Page and John Silver. It was a really great match. No complaints here about the actual match itself. I think both men did a really good job. I wish they would put John Silver against someone that he can actually win against, right? Because he's not going to beat Hangman Adam Page this soon because he's just getting over.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm watching a match, and I noticed something I never noticed before, and you might actually like this, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel, but the actual ring, it's so gray. Like, the mat is gray. The ropes are gray. Like, when you watch WWE, like SmackDown, Raw, NXT, they all have their own specific look. And I guess maybe I'm asking too much because right now it is the pandemic and they're filming Dark and Dynamite in the exact same venue. And even before, they would film Dark matches right after Dynamite was finished, right? But I kind of wish, and maybe this is like a bigger topic, but I kind of wish Dark and Dynamite looked different. And maybe, again, a bigger topic, that's when we talk about them having a second show. But Dark kind of is a second show. Like, it is. Like, I know it's on YouTube and not broadcast live on television, on a television network. But yeah, it all looks the same. And I don't know if that's a simple adjustment of changing the ropes or the mat or the lighting or the backdrop. But, like back in the days, Nitro did not look like Thunder. And SmackDown does not look like Raw. Like, when you're watching SmackDown. When you're watching Raw. If I'm watching a match on Dark and you didn't tell me it was Dark, I was just on YouTube, I could easily mistake it for a match on Dynamite. Like, I mean, Sammy and Marco had a match this week, and if I didn't know it was on Dark, I would just assume it's on Dynamite because Sammy's usually on Dynamite.
That's a solid point. I remember back, this is a couple of years ago now, it's when they were, well, they still don't know what to do, but they finally have 205 Live mixed in with NXT. That makes sense. But when they were trying, there was a period where they tried to do 205 Live matches during Monday Night Raw, but they actually swapped out the ring, like the ropes and the apron and everything, and had 205 logos on the mat. Like, I think they were just broadcast from, they were just lights that were shining down. But they still, even for just that one match, swapped out stuff so it looked like 205 Live. So you knew this was a 205 Live branded thing. It wasn't the best idea on the face of the earth, but at least they went through with the execution. There's, wherever they're taping Dark, whatever. But if it's a Dark match, they need different color ring ropes. They need different color aprons. They can leave the mat for all I care. It can stay gray. That's fine. I would like it if they changed it, but if it's too much work, I get it. But swapping out the ring ropes and at the very least the apron, that shouldn't be too difficult to do. Just so, and even what's the even whatever you call it, like tarps that are over the ring guards, like the barriers between them and the fans and the other wrestlers and such. Like having that all themed to the show is incredibly important, and I think it's important. Like Dark, like the show they're talking about right now is the third show. That's reality. Dark is a show. Dark is my preferred show. I love watching Dark, and it's getting longer and longer, and more is going into it. Like it's what the beauty of that show is. It could be 45 minutes one week and 2.5 hours the next week. Like it just depends. There were 17 matches on Dark this week. There are way more matches than were on Dynamite. That is a lot of wrestling, and it needs to have a proper brand, not just be, okay, here's a bunch of other matches that we had. There was some great stuff this week, and I would love to see them. I agree with you completely. I'd love to see them put the effort into the visual brand of that show.
So I'm actually comparing it right now on Dynamite, and it looks exactly the same. They made no changes whatsoever. So when you watch Taz do his promo in the ring, which, by the way, was amazing, Cody came out, and then
gold.
We get the announcement of Taz's son working with Cody. I thought that entire promo was incredible. I mean, Taz is just like, I mean, I know he screws up every so often with the lines. Doesn't matter. He's just really good on the mic, and I'm a huge fan of Team Taz, but I digress. Again, it's like I could have been watching an episode of Dark and would think that was part of Dark, because right now my problem with Dynamite, and again, I know it's a pandemic, it looks like I'm watching Dark. And here's the thing, like, yes, maybe it might be time consuming to actually put new aprons and mats and ropes and whatever it is you got to do in different lights, but technically it should actually be a lot easier because they don't have to move from city to city, from arena to arena. So it should actually be easier for them to change the look of the set. I'm going to call it the set, right? So I'm not entirely sure why they don't do it. I just think they should. A few more things that I would change. This will be controversial, and I think you might disagree. I'm not a big fan of having the ramp extend all the way to the ring. Like, I just don't understand the point of having that.
Honestly, I hate it. I hate it when they do that, where they have like a really long raised ramp going down to the ring. I like it when the ramp comes down, they're at eye level with the people, and then they get in the ring. That whole thing, I think personally, I find it like maybe it has to do with the way they're set up. Maybe it's closer, but I feel like they can push the ring a bit further away from the steps or redesign the stage or do something. To me, I worry constantly that somebody's going to do a back body drop over those ring ropes or do a dive or something, and they're going to land on the damn steps back first or something. And I think that's happened a couple of times. Hopefully it's planned spots. Somebody's getting really hurt on that thing. I am not a fan of that in the least. I would love to see that go away.
Okay, so I'm not alone. They should change it.
No, you're not.
And like, I think of what happens when AEW gets bigger and someone wants to come out riding a motorcycle, like Jericho or Darby Allin or whatever. You can't ride around the ring because there's a freaking ramp that goes all the way to the edge of the ring. Like, there's a lot of things you can't do. And, like, I know they're not as big as WWE. They're not selling out venues where they have, like, 80,000 people in attendance. But still, like, I just feel like it's a danger. I don't think it adds value to the wrestling matches. Like, I'm so sick and tired of them using it as a prop to, quote unquote, hurt wrestlers in a match and, like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I also really, really dislike, and I feel so negative this week, but I really, really do not like picture-in-picture. I don't think anybody likes picture-in-picture, and on all honesty, yesterday watching Dynamite, at least I did not get picture-in-picture. It went straight to commercial, full screen, no picture-in-picture, and I actually preferred it. The picture-in-picture doesn't do anything for me. I get distracted. I can't, like, focus on the little rectangle at the edge of the screen. I would prefer they cut a match every week and use that time for actual commercials, and I can actually see a full match, because there's been too many times where I'm watching a fantastic match and they go picture to picture and I'm missing all of the drama, all of the commentary, all of the amazing moves and action. And yeah, it's picture in picture, but it's not the same. It's not the same, man. And so I would love for them to just get rid of a match and then give us an actual normal show without picture in picture, go to commercials like the old school traditional way.
I have two things to say about picture-in-picture. One, the only wrestler or anyone who's ever made good use of it is Sammy. When he comes out and does his card thing with it, that's actually funny. Like, he doesn't do it very often, but when he stands there and he's got messages written on the cards, and he just stands there staring in the camera, throwing the cards on the ground, so a picture in picture, that's at least a funny use of it. But that's few and far between. I'm going to go so far as to say I think picture in picture is disrespectful to the talent wrestling in the ring, because you minimize them, put them in the corner, then you've got the bigger commercial going on over here. You can't see what all the work they're putting in. I'm like, well, what's the point of this? Like, just go to commercial. Like, I can barely see what's going on. Like, it's weird. It's distracting. I think it's disrespectful. I think that I don't see a purpose in it whatsoever. WWE does dumb crap like that sometimes too, where they have a wrestling match and they minimize it for picture in picture to show like storyline shenanigans going on in the back. And I'm like, well, why are you having the match then if you're just going to show me something going on in the back? I want to watch the match. And that's what I want out of this too. I want to watch the match. And if I can't watch the match, don't put it in a screen that's 12% of my TV screen in the bottom corner, so I can't even. Okay, did Orange Cassidy hit Sammy Guevara? Did Sammy Guevara hit Orange Cassidy? I think Orange Cassidy hit him. Like, that's not how I should be watching a wrestling match. If I wanted that, I'd watch it. If I want to watch a match that small, I'd put it on my phone and be done with it.
I know. I really, really hate it. And I understand that right now, technically, they see it as they only have one show, at least one show that's being televised. And so they're trying to get as much screen time as they can to have these great wrestling matches and storylines. I just think it devalues the product, and it's sort of not disrespectful to the talent, but it's sort of like a slap in their face sometimes. Because the Cody Rhodes Brody Lee match, like the best move in that match when he DDT'd him through the table outside of the ring and was a dog collar match, it happened during picture-in-picture commercial break. So, like, that's not cool.
Well, that's just bad booking. That's bad booking right there. Like, that brings up the other point right there, because then when it came back from break, it showed you a replay of it. So if you're just going to show us a replay of all the big spots that happened while you were in picture-in-picture, what the hell is the point of picture-in-picture? We're going to get the replay anyway. We were going to miss it anyway. We could barely see it. You showed us a replay of it. Just go to commercial. It's fine. It's not like when you're watching an episode of a sitcom on TV, they show you picture-in-picture of what the characters are doing while you're learning about spaghetti. Why would I need that for wrestling?
Again, so I was taking notes yesterday while watching Dynamite because I specifically want to talk about this on the podcast. So a few more notes I took. So when we get to the Miro and Kip Sabian segment, right, I actually thought that was really cool. And I like the fact that they actually used a cameraman as a prop. And I do like the way they do their promos backstage. So like I know a lot of people don't like the idea of having Miro in the storyline. I'm not talking about the storyline. I'm talking about the way they do those promos. Like
the execution of it.
Yeah, the way What's Their Face would destroy Sue's car, for example.
Yeah.
So that stuff is really cool. But then when they do their actual cinematic segments, it looks cool, but it also seems pointless and silly. So with Darby Allin, like, I really like Darby Allin, and they have him do these dark, black and white, twisted, pre-recorded cinematic segments.
Yeah, these little vignettes, yeah.
Yeah, these vignettes, which look, I guess, cool, but, like, why are you in a church setting yourself on fire? Why do you have spray paint on this car, and then you light up the car on fire? Like, it's weird. It's bizarre for me. Like, I don't understand what they're trying to say about him and his character. Like you know what, Lance Archer, when he's doing backyard wrestling and he shows up and he just beats the crap out of everyone, it seems to line up with his character. And then sometimes when they do, like, even with Pac, like, some of them are good and some of them are, like, really weird. Like, why is Pac running around in his wrestling, like, shorts in the middle of the street? Like, why is he not dressed like normal? Like, why is it Pac is always dressed like a wrestler no matter where he is?
I think he just lives wrestling, man. He just lives it. He's never not Pac.
Like, you know, like, we talked about the Vegas thing last week, which I thought was really great. Like, I love stuff like that. I love, it's not that I want my wrestling shows to turn into, like, short films every week, but every so often stuff like that's cool. I like the fact that we have a talk show now, like, with Britt Baker, and it's actually a female-led talk show, whereas usually it's always a man that does, like you know, Rowdy Piper or whoever it is back in the days type thing. So there's a lot of things I still do like about the production values. But, I mean, overall, I just kind of feel like Dark still feels like a YouTube show. And if you're telling me that the last episode of Dark, which I didn't finish watching, was 2.5 hours long and had 17 matches, like, to me, that's a bigger show than Dynamite. So why don't you actually put more effort into making it seem like an actual, TV show, even if I'm watching it on my computer screen, where it feels like there's a live audience and it feels like it's filmed live, and it has a different look and feel from Dynamite. That's kind of like what I just want.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think they've built Dark into... I don't know if they expected Dark to become what it is, and I think it's bigger than they ever thought it would be. And now is the time to start putting real effort into it, because Taz and Excalibur have great chemistry on the mic. Anthony Ogogo is actually starting to really kind of settle into that routine. He's working on that too. They bring on constant guests throughout the show, like sometimes it's Brandy, sometimes it's Ricky Starks, but they keep and that works. Like the commentary thing is starting to build into its own entity. And if they actually put some effort into the visual brand of Dark, make it its own thing, and actually push to have it be a full-fledged show, they could have something really good there. And I think it's time that they did that. Well, honestly, I think you and I would both agree, it's well past time they did that. Like they have something they could really work with here if they put the effort in, and they need to put. And that's the thing, they need the effort. And it could be just something as simple as changing the ring aprons, swapping out the filters on a couple of lights, and throwing up some new ropes, and all of a sudden we're watching a different show from Dynamite. And Dark needs that if it's going to move forward into its next phase.
And I think, like, if one show's called Dynamite and one show's called Dark, one show should look darker and the other show should be brighter. Like, I think that there could be a nice contrast between both brands, sort of like Raw and SmackDown, the blue brand, the red brand, the gold brand. But going back to this episode of Dynamite, so looking at my notes here, so we get a match between Shida and Anna Jay, which, by the way, Anna Jay rocks. Shida's still my favorite in the women's division. I know some people are fed up of her. I still really like her. I actually like the fact that they allowed her to speak in the promo, because I know she's not fluent in English, but at least she tries, and she's got such charisma and personality and spunk that even if she doesn't speak much, I don't know, I feel like she says more than most wrestlers on a mic, even though she says like 5 words. Anyhow, but the point is, at the end of this match, right, we get Abaddon. She appears. She looks like she looks like she crawled out of like The Ring, like out of like some crazy Japanese horror film. And for most people who don't watch Dark, they might have no idea who Abaddon is, because I don't think she's ever appeared on Dynamite before. So that's like a really cool way to introduce Abaddon on Dynamite, because again, if you don't watch Dark, this is like, whoa, who the hell is this? It's kind of like when Kane shows up for the first time, you're like, whoa, who's this, right? So I like stuff like that. Like that is how they can also use Dynamite to promote and not persuade, but sort of like motivate people to actually watch Dark. It's like, you don't know who Abaddon is, maybe you should start watching Dark, because there's a lot of good wrestlers on Dark. Stuff like that I like. There was one more point I wanted to make. What was it again? Something that I would change.
I wish that JR could have just yelled, "That must be Abaddon!" as she came down to the ring. That would have been hilarious. Calling back to Cade. That would have been great.
That would be amazing, yeah. The last thing I'm going to say that I wrote here in my notes was, I guess it's a question of how they decide how they're going to order the matches, like what comes first, what comes last, because look, I really, really like the Butcher and the Blade right now. I know it was hard on them at first. I think they're awesome right now. I love Pac. I love Rey Fenix. And watching the match between Pac, Rey Fenix, and the Butcher and the Blade was fantastic. And it helps that you have Eddie Kingston on commentary, because he's amazing on commentary, right? Mm-hmm. I just don't think it should have been the last match. I mean, you're building to a sort of like pay-per-view on TV. I know it's not a pay-per-view, but it feels like a pay-per-view, right? The next episode of Dynamite, Winter is Coming, and the big match of that episode is Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. And so I kind of feel like Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley should have closed the show, not them. And I'm not even entirely sure if they're wrestling next week. So why did they close the show? And I know it has a lot to do with the ratings and when people tune in and they're competing with NXT. And I've been told that NXT, the last 2 episodes, have had an incredible final match. So was it because they're afraid of competing with that last match of NXT, or did they feel that it made sense to put Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley halfway through Dynamite instead of at the end? Like I just don't sometimes I just don't understand the way they order the matches and their booking.
It's a strange choice. I agree with that too. But I honestly don't know. Like I think what a part of for me is Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. They need to. I don't feel like they're making as big a deal out of this as they should be. Like we're heading into. I agree with you completely with what you said. Next week's Dynamite, I feel like I should be giving them money for it because it feels like a pay-per-view. Like we've got a world title match between Kenny the Cleaner Omega and Jon Moxley. Like that's a big damn deal. And it's not the only big match they have on the card either. Like this is a massive Dynamite. This is the reality of it. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, and they've hyped this Jon Moxley Kenny Omega match with 2 consecutive weeks of contract signings that go awry segments. And I'm like, I can't think of a more stereotypical, less interesting wrestling segment. Do you know what I mean? Like I've seen these 1,000 times. I've seen every conceivable iteration of the contract signing gone awry segment. I have, and I know they do them. I know they're always going to do them, but that's all I've gotten to hype this. I know it. I'd like to see them. Either of them have had a match.
And again, I know we sound really negative this week, but the whole point was what we would change as producers, so therefore we have to be negative because we're not going to change what we like. But the thing is, this is still a TV show. It's scripted. I'm sorry. Yes, they're athletes, and yes, they hurt themselves, and yes, it's dangerous when they're wrestling, but it's scripted. And it's sports entertainment, and I look at it like any TV show. Like you end with a cliffhanger. The second last episode of Game of Thrones is not going to end with Tyrion having tea with a dragon and telling jokes. Like it's going to end on a big moment. Someone dies, someone gets stabbed, a house blows up, dragons like appear, like something happens. It's you know what I mean. And I feel like your cliffhanger of Dynamite leading into Winter is Coming, the big event for Dynamite of 2020, in which you're promoting what you consider the biggest match of Dynamite so far of the year, it should have ended with Moxley and Kenny Omega. And by the way, we always talk about the appearance and how wrestlers dress and their attire and what they look like. I think Kenny Omega should rock a suit more often, like maybe every single time he appears, at least as a heel. Because he looks way cooler in a suit than he does in his like gym pants and.
Oh my God! Yes, he slayed that suit, man. It was just he looked like a professional. He looked like he was heading up Amazon in that suit, man. Like I can't agree with you more. He looked great.
So that's about it. I mean, like all in all, I guess my major complaint is, and I've said this for like 2 weeks in a row, is I want Dark to look different than Dynamite. I want Dark to feel like an actual wrestling show. And I don't care if it's on YouTube, you could still do it. And especially, like I said, if you're filming Dark and Dynamite in the same venue week after week, it should actually be easier for you to change things because you're not moving from city to city.
Well, let's call it what it is. The reality is Dark is monetized. They have ads during it. They make money from it, put money back into it. Like, it's just as simple as that. That's the equation. And if they want it, like, they've got good views on the show. If they want to build them, that's part of how you build it. That's just reality.
Yeah, they had 312,000 views for the last episode of Dark, which aired 2 days ago, a day and a half ago. I still haven't had a chance to finish watching Dark, so that episode of Dark can easily get up to about 400,000 views, if not more. For sure, they have a lot of views, and they do advertise. You're totally right. I mean, the episode the week prior had 402,000 views, so they average about 400,000 views for some episodes. And they also have their YouTube channels. I mean, Being the Elite, Sammy's got his YouTube channel, Kip's got his YouTube channel. Anyhow, all in all, I'm pretty happy with AEW Dynamite, clearly. I mean, I'm doing a podcast about the wrestling promotion. I'm ordering wrestling figures for $50. There's things I would want to approve. Yes, for sure. I do think it's, I do think it's still, like, in my opinion, the most interesting of all of the wrestling promotions, at least that I can watch here in Montreal. I mean, there's a lot of things I can't watch, like New Japan, for example, but I'm pretty happy with it.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Talk AEW. I'm Ian Goodwillie, of course, with every week with the editor-in-chief of TiltMagazine.net and GoobaStomp.com, Ricky D.
And just a reminder to listeners, you can listen to the show on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Deezer, ListenNotes, Pandora, and iHeart Radio. Plus, of course, over on our website, GoobaStomp.com, just hit the wrestling section and our podcast section. You can find every single one of our episodes, as well as Ian's weekly coverage of Dynamite and Dark.
And if you ask really nicely, Ricky and I might come to your house and just recite the podcast for you. We don't do it for everybody, but for special people.
Mariko should be back next week, and next week, of course, we're going to be doing a full episode dedicated to Winter is Coming.
Look forward to that. We'll see you all next week.
Let me tell you something. I'm out here for a reason. Next week, the same thing's going to happen that happened last week. Okay, you and Darby will get whooped. Okay, but that's not my reason for being here. I need one of you management people to take that FTW championship and give it the respect it deserves. Put some respect on that. I'm tired of this shit.
Okay. Someone from management is here. I hear what you're saying. I'm digesting it all. I see the FTW championship. How about this? I'll run it up the flagpole.
What are you going to do next, Cody? Tell me creative has nothing for me? Any more of that corporate bullshit? What are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me now? You're going to tell me that wish me best of luck in my future endeavors?
Okay,
is that what you're going to do next? Is that what you're going to do next?
Okay. So this means everything. I get it, right? FTW is so wonderful. It's so wonderful. Well, answer me this. Your son, Hook, he's training to be a pro wrestler, right? Why the hell is he not training with you, but he's training with me?
Whoa.